So I've been a couples therapist since 1983, probably even 1982, when I was teaching at Bryn Mawr College in Philadelphia, and I was kind of steeped in the family therapy milieu of that time, and looking at the issue of couples being able to relate from the point of view of sharing power, particularly from feminist perspective, and I wrote a book on a form of therapy that had to do with bringing feminism into couples therapy. So at this point in time, in terms of couples therapy, we know that couples therapy is the least successful form of therapy out there. And in some studies, it's about 80% unsuccessful. That is, it fails to meet its goals in about 80% of the time. And so why would that be? What's going on that couples therapy is not working? I think the main thing is that the unfortunate part of most couples therapy is that couples start to depend on the therapist to deal with their conflicts. And so instead of being able to internalize the work of the therapy and grow and develop from it, they keep going to therapy in order to talk about their conflicts. So there's a problem inherent in a three-person relationship, and that is that either of two people can talk to the other person about the other. So a three-person relationship is inherently unstable because of triangulation, that you can talk about somebody to another person. So couples therapy can be set up in that way so that one partner talks to the therapist about the other partner. And from my point of view, that's one reason why couples therapy can fail over time, because the two people that are in the relationship aren't actually talking to each other. I think...
Sorry, one second. You don't have to worry about writing it down, actually.
Are you getting it?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So another reason why I think that couples therapy fails in this period of time, and this has to do with the reason why I'm wanting to bring dialogue therapy back onto the scene. After 10 years of not practicing it, I think that dialogue therapy has something to offer that emotion-focused therapy, the Gottman method of couples therapy, nonviolent communication, and some of the other models that are out there that are based on psychoanalysis or on cognitive behavioral therapy. The reason why I think that dialogue therapy has something unique to offer is that it combines an investigation of unconscious affective communication with a focus on mindfulness, or the capacity to pay attention to your own thoughts and feelings in the midst of emotional activation. None of the other therapies do that as a regular part of their setup, nor do they primarily focus the two members of the couple on each other instead of being focused on the therapist. This is something that dialogue therapy has always done. So dialogue therapy in its current form is a short-term, psychoanalytically oriented psychotherapy that is structured, it's highly structured, and it's time limited. There are two different models. One model is for co-therapists, and that's been the traditional model of dialogue therapy. And the other model is for a solo therapist. In the co-therapist model, the typical number of meetings is 7 meetings. The first meeting is an evaluation. It's 3 hours. After that, the meetings are 2 hours each, and they occur over a 6-month period, once a month, and then there's a break of 6 months and there's a follow-up. That's the co-therapist model. The solo therapist or the single therapist model, the evaluation takes place over the first 3 meetings. Each of those meetings is an hour long, and then those are followed by 9 meetings that are also an hour long, and then there's a 6-month break, and there's one more. So there are 13 meetings in the solo model. The meetings are actually set up and structured in such a way that the couple is always facing each other in the room, and the co-therapist or the single therapist is sitting or are sitting in chairs outside of the field of vision of each individual. The therapist may switch chairs with one of the partners and interview the other partner, but all of the action takes place with all of the people in the room. In other words, there's never a separate meeting with the therapist for an individual in that couple. So dialogue therapy overall is set up to contain the couple and to insist that the two members focus on each other as they learn about each other and as they learn the skills. And I will talk in a minute about the history of dialogue therapy, but in its current model, dialogue therapy emphasizes psychoanalysis from the point of view of investigating something that is called projective identification. That is the tendency of all of us to project into our partner the sense of an enemy or an other who is against me in some way, and then or who is inferior, or there can be any number of scenarios about the otherness. But then the tendency to want to control that other in regard to that projection, and that ends up evoking from the other person the very thing that one was hoping to avoid. For example, if I grew up, let's say, with a very depressed mother, and I was used to cheering her up, and then I find that my partner seems like he or she is depressed, and I begin to try to be cheerful, to make suggestions. Oh, why don't you learn to meditate? Why don't you exercise more? What if you took up some hobbies? That kind of intervention to try to help my partner is actually going to provoke some reaction in my partner, and pretty soon my partner is going to be either cutting me out or being angry or feeling humiliated, and then I can say, oh, it is the case. My partner's really depressed and needs help. So it's like projective identification unconsciously evokes from the other person the very thing that we were hoping to avoid. And partners do this with each other in a way that is very predictable, and it's very easy to witness it once you get them interacting. And once you see them interacting in a dialogue therapy session, the therapist or therapists will work with the individual to see, oh, here's what's going on. This is the way I'm experiencing my partner. Can I take a step back from that? Can I actually just feel those feelings instead of making this a scenario in which I enact something with the other person? So this is called unconscious affective communication. It's happening between people all the time. We're always evoking things from other people. We're always projecting things into other people. But most of the time, those things just sort of pass. We don't think about them again. With a couple with whom, where we're in a relationship with someone with whom we're making decisions, who actually is meant to be a friend, who is trying perhaps to be a witness, or at least trying to get through the day. In that situation, the emotional stakes are extremely high. And we often feel very much like we felt when we were a child and powerless. We feel as though the other person has all of the power and is actually setting us up or making it difficult. And under those conditions, this kind of projective identification becomes very powerful as a communication. And if it takes place over time, it will erode the intimacy in the relationship, because the people won't be able to trust each other. They won't be able to let down their guards with each other because defenses come up really quickly. And so dialogue therapy is designed to address that problem of projective identification. And the whole theory of it comes out of psychoanalysis, but dialogue therapy doesn't function like a psychoanalytic relationship typically would, because the therapists are actually standing back and the couple is generating a communication field or a dynamic field between them, and then the therapist can help the couple work with that material that's coming up, like the emotional furniture. It's so clear when it does come up.